On behalf of Old Mutual this morning, I warmly welcome you all to the conversation here about the latest Old Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor, and this is Wave 3. If you're here, you're not here by chance, you're here because you would understand that data drives the world. And today's conversation is not just about data, but truly about the financial resilience, behavior, and other things related that are monitored about the Ghanaian. Now, while we have this conversation, it is also going to have certain indications about the macroeconomic foundations of Ghana at the moment and how most of us react to. A conversation that goes beyond Old Mutual in itself and the services and products offered, but also a conversation that transcends to a national interest. That's why we believe that we're in this room. We are honored truly to have your presence and are grateful for your continued partnership, especially the media, to be here with us to amplify the efforts that Old Mutual puts into such insights and data that have been provided this morning. I am Atwabas, and truly it is an honor and a privilege to be here with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome. To officially welcome us and set the tone for today's engagement, it is my pleasure to invite the Group Marketing and Communications Executive at Old Mutual. Let's welcome Rita Boateng. Or if you're doing so, you want to do it better. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here this morning. A big welcome to our media partners we have been on this journey with over the years. And also a big welcome to my colleagues, the Old Mutual Ghana Exco, and to all invited guests. As Atu mentioned, my name is Rita Boateng, and I'm the Marketing and Comms Executive for Old Mutual Ghana. Throughout the program this morning, we are going to hear from a few people in the room, also hear from the Ghanaian consumer out there. So we have Rio, who has been introduced, who will come up here after me to share the insights from the report. Then we also have our group CEO at a point who will come in to give us some remarks. For those of you who were not here with us last year, we shared a same report, which was a second report that we've done for the Financial Services Wellness Monitor. The Old Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor is a longitudinal study that provides comprehensive insights into the Ghanaian financial landscape. This study we conduct annually in Old Mutual Ghana. The first was done in 2023, and this is the third that is going to be shared. And someone would ask, so why do we do this year in and year out? Why do we conduct this research year in and year out? The central premise behind the Financial Wellness Monitor is, if you know better, you can do better. And it's a monitor that studies the financial behavior of the everyday Ghanaian consumer. So if you know better, then you are able to do better with your finances. With this in mind, we want to be able to help our customers achieve their lifetime financial goals and overcome the challenges they face. If we can't do this, then our efforts are pointless as a financial institution, because that is why we exist. This is directly linked to the sustainability of our business. If our customers are doing well, they are managing their finances well, then our business will also grow. So, how we are supporting our customers to tackle the challenges they are currently facing is through financial education, innovative product solutions. So for those of you who were here with us last year, you realize that there were a number of things that we had called out last year that based on the reports we were going to pursue as a business. And one of them is innovative product solutions. And currently we have a new product in the market that is actually speaking to some of the insights that we found from the report. So we are gathered here again today to share insights from the report, to share with you, our friends in the media, what Old Mutual has seen with regards to how the Ghanaian consumer is behaving when it comes to finances. You would see areas such as savings, attitudes towards retirement, attitude towards debt management in particular, and the confidence, overall confidence of the Ghanaian consumer in the Ghanaian economy. And also at the end of it, we'll share with you what the key insights are and what at Old Mutual we plan to do with these key insights to be able to support our consumers on their journey. So thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you.
With all these insights, it gives us the ammunition of knowledge. And if we know better, then we can do better. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. At the heart of today's or this morning's discussion here is a very insight-driven approach and a conversation that would go around understanding how Ghanaians are navigating financial wellness in today's climate and what this means for businesses, for policymakers, and also for households, as basic as it can get. Now, to lead us through this discussion is a person who brings an extensive expertise in consumer insights, behavioral trends, and financial wellness intelligence across the continent, Africa. Coming all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa, please, let's put our hands together for the head of knowledge and insights at Old Mutual, Vuyokazi Mabude, please. Thank you, and you can do better for her while she comes up. And you're welcome to Accra.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And hopefully there are some faces who have seen me here before and are excited to hear what we have to share today. Rita has covered the initial slide that I wanted to talk through, which is why we do this survey. You've spoken to Rita. We want to uncover what people are doing, what are their habits, what are their perceptions around money, so that we can better understand how to help them become more financially well. We are, as Old Mutual, committed to ensuring that people become financially well, to championing financial wellness of Ghanaians, and this is just one of the ways that we inform ourselves as well as an organization on what people's reality actually is. When it comes to the survey, we continue to do the survey in a way that is representative of the country and the market. And so we do the survey in October of 2025 is when we did the research. It is weighted to the Ghanaian population, which means it's representative of the working Ghanaians, both informal and formal sectors. We do the research through face-to-face data collection. It covers people who are 20 to 59 years old, who earn 1,200 Ghana cedis and above per month. So this is a personal income, not household, personal income of 1,200 per month and above. And getting in straight into the data, the exciting news we have to share this year is that we have seen some really great positive shifts in how people are doing from a financial perspective. The first of which, in terms of the financial wellness indicators, is confidence in the economy and their personal financial outlook. So what people are telling us as working Ghanaians is, and you can see that number rise significantly from 17% to 48% of Ghanaians saying they are actually quite confident in the Ghanaian economy. All of those improved macros, the relief of the pressure that people were under is definitely coming through as a renewed sense of optimism and hope. 7 in 10 saying that they actually believe things will continue to get better next year, again showing that continued optimism. And even some people saying, I actually believe that if I were to fall into hard times, from an economic perspective, the government would actually step in to take care of me. And that number was only 16% of people who agreed with that sentiment in the past, and now 30% of people saying, I actually believe that the government would step in if I needed assistance. The drivers of this confidence is good leadership and governance. It's the economic indicators that are stabilizing, as well as the price of goods, so people having more money in their pockets to buy things and to feed their families, etc. From a personal perspective, I spoke about the fact that it's not just economic positivity and optimism, but even from a personal finance perspective, people are much more expectant of what is going to come. 79% of Ghanaians saying they think that things are going to improve in their personal finances in the next 6 months. And when you look at the word cloud on the far right at the bottom of the page, you can see we've asked people to just give us a sense of what is top of mind for them. You can see the words that people are saying is, I'm thinking about progress, I'm thinking about my business, things are improving, things are better, I'm thinking about moving forward. Those are some of the things that people are focused on. And why they are so positive is because, one, we've spoken about the macros, their businesses are doing better. Entrepreneurship is a part of the core of how people earn money in this country. And so the moment business is improving, you start to see that come through as positivity as well. And then finally, being able to pay off some of the debts that they had incurred over the last year or so has also started to create a sense of optimism and hope about what is going to happen in the next 6 months of their finances. Looking at financial stress, we've also seen a significant improvement in this regard. This, again, fantastic to see this coming through. So when you look at the levels of financial stress, so the dark gray and the black lines are people being highly and overwhelmingly stressed. And you can see that that number from 2023 has dropped from 64% to 30%. So half of people now saying that they are no longer actually overwhelmingly or highly financially stressed. They've moved into the low stress, and even some people, which I wish I was part of, is no stress at all, which is just fantastic to see. Really encouraging to see these decreases, not just in, or increases, sorry, in optimism, but coupled with decreases in financial stress, because that really does show you that the improvements are quite holistic for people and they're experiencing them in multiple different ways. We've spoken to some of the drivers of the financial stress, but debt management remains key. Having a buffer or savings buffer is important. Income security comes up in this conversation around financial stress. Dependence and responsibilities, you'll see in a couple of slides, we'll talk through what has happened from a dependency perspective. And then finally, how people are managing their expenses better. That is what has driven this sharp decline in financial stress that you see here. So very, very positive overall. The term sandwich generation is a term we coined to describe people who have both child dependence and adult dependence. Those could be parents, siblings, extended family. And what you can see here is that consistent decline from 2023 at 42% to 2025, 31% of people saying they are in the sandwich generation. This is very encouraging to see, because primarily what ends up happening for a lot of the people in this cohort is that the strain financially becomes too much to bear, and it starts to have negative consequences for them in terms of debt, etc., and the spiraling of some of those responsibilities into behaviors that sometimes erode their financial well-being. And so this, again, super exciting to start to see that people are becoming more self-reliant. There is less pressure on the earning working cohort of Ghanaians, and they really are starting to see some of those improvements come through. So fewer people part of the sandwich generation is one of the key takeouts of this year. When we look at financial priorities, this is where you start to see some of that data on the sandwich generation come through as well here. So income security remains absolutely primary for people. That is the one thing that people are worried about, constantly thinking about. It's their number one priority, is how do I make sure that my income is secure? Whether that's job or business income, it is absolutely the number one priority. In the data that you're looking at, the dark green line is 2024, the light green line is 2025. And I want to just draw your attention to two things in particular on this chart. Cutting expenses in 2024 was, I think, ranked 6th in the list of priorities. It is number 2, right? People have taken active decisions in terms of how they're going to manage their expenses, and cutting their expenses has become a massive priority for them. The other thing I want to point to is supporting and helping family and friends financially. I remember the first time we did the survey in 2023, I was shocked to see that that was the second biggest priority. Someone is nodding who was probably in the room at the time. I could not understand how that was the way that people were setting out their financial priorities. And as we started to dig deeper and really understand, it was a part of the communal way that people live in Ghana and the way that finances are shared in a communal or community setting. But even that has shifted in 2025. So you see now that actually helping family and friends is on par with building a savings buffer or an emergency savings buffer, as well as getting the best returns. So people really, really have reorganized their lives, they've reorganized their priorities, and they are still focused on income first, second, cutting expenses, and then they get into some of the other stuff that's really around investing, making sure that their savings are secure, and then starting to get into things like paying off debts, helping family, and then obviously making sure that they have the insurance that they need. So again, quite a marked shift from a priority perspective that we've seen in 2025's data. When it comes to monetizing their businesses or their income in particular, so this we look at because if income security is the number one priority, we obviously want to understand how people are earning that income, where are they getting it, what are the ways that they are doing this. Again, really great green shoot in this particular point. So 37% of people saying that they earn more now than they did last year. And the bulk of people actually not sitting in a space where, if you look at the 2023 data on the far right, is that dark gray line of people saying I earn significantly less. 20% of people earned significantly less in 2023 than they did in 2022, versus if you look now, it's only 2% of people who say, actually in 2025, I was earning significantly less than the previous year. And so this is again, quite a positive shift to see that people are earning more. They are utilizing their businesses to ensure that they earn more income. And overall, we're also seeing that this is a green shoot amongst the younger Ghanaian consumers. So people who are under 29 are actually the ones where we see this trend most evidenced in terms of them earning more. And so really exciting to see that shift. There is always a but when we talk to data, and this is the but. So although there have been really remarkable shifts and changes and people really moving from survival mode into progress, into recovery in some ways, there are still vulnerabilities that persist. And what you're looking at now is some of those vulnerabilities. So 39% of people saying that they are concerned about losing their income, despite the fact that their income has improved. 53% of Ghanaians, we ask people, if you had to lose your job or your income, how long would you be able to sustain yourself or survive? 1 in 2 are at risk of actually not being able to survive more than 3 months. So people don't actually have a significant or resilient enough savings capacity to be able to withstand any financial shocks. That's what that tells you, that stat. And then lastly, also we have 30% of Ghanaians gambling. And not just gambling once or twice a year, but gambling often, which is a couple of times a week, and even some daily in that point. And a lot of them doing it to help to cover expenses or pay off debts. And although the conversation today is not regarding gambling, what we do know and what the data has shown us in multiple markets, so we do this survey in 4 different countries, we do know with certainty that gambling does erode people's financial well-being because it creates a debt spiral, and that debt spiral creates financial stress, and people start to kind of really struggle to enjoy some of the gains that they've made from a financial perspective. So although things have improved, and some of them significantly so, there are still vulnerabilities that persist when it comes to the financial realities of working Ghanaians. The sources of income, polyjobbing, we have lots of fun terms that come with the survey. So polyjobbing is side hustling. Put it simply, is people who have more than one way to earn an income. And this has increased as well. So Ghanaians are saying, and I think, the last time we'd spoken to Rita and the team, and everybody was like, of course you don't have one income. Everybody's got multiple ways to earn an income. But this is, I think, becoming more formalized in the sense that it's not just a side hustle as a business, but also even finding different ways of working and using your skill set to earn an income. So whether that is, a nighttime job or freelancing, et cetera, that people are doing on the side. A 6% increase in people having side hustles or freelancing above and beyond their normal job. And it's, again, most prevalent amongst your younger generation. So the 20 to 29 segment really driving a lot of this trend. So 41% of Ghanaians who are working, who are aged 20 to 29, are saying that they actually own a business or they're part of a business. So they are really driving the side hustling trend and making sure that they're able to juggle all of these priorities that they have. Moving on to debt management, we spoke about cutting expenses being the second biggest priority. This is quite encouraging to see. A lot of people, sorry, so the first part was just on debt management, but we're going to start with budget management first. And what we've seen here is that although people are saying that they are cutting expenses, you still have 45% of people who are still finding themselves overspending. And so there is actually a little bit of a budget reality, I think, that is required from a Ghanaian perspective in terms of saying, if you do have a budget, if you are doing planning, et cetera, for your expenses, making sure that you stick to it is really, really critical, because when you still have 1 in 2 overspending and spending beyond what their limit is, it does pose a risk to people's financial well-being. Then jumping into debt, similarly, you start to see here, there are still significant worries regarding debt. So although that percentage is decreasing from 35% to 26% in 2025, you do actually still have a portion of people who are worried about debt. This, I think, is probably one of the brightest green shoots we've seen this year, is 67% of people saying they have less debt now than they did a year ago. That is a fantastic thing to see when it comes to people's financial well-being. They are managing their debt better. They're not just, overextending themselves or taking loans that they don't need. They really are stepping into their financial responsibilities and making sure that they manage their debt. And you started to see it even in a formalized way. So 21% of people saying they've actually approached their creditors to make arrangements. And usually whenever we see that kind of data, that's very encouraging to see, because it means people are being proactive about managing the debt that they have. And so quite encouraging to see that overall, from a debt perspective, we have seen a reduction in debt. We do see that the worry or the levels of concern about debt are dropping, and people are actually becoming more proactive in managing their debt. Let's take a look at what types of debt people have today. And so the first line on personal loans, the data just wasn't available in 2024. That's why you see a hyphen through that. But overall, we do see that people are still using their close-knit family, friends, networks, so personal circles of trust, rather than going to institutions at this point in time. So most people taking a loan through a personal circle of trust. And then you start to see loans from institutions, SUSU, or a micro lender, for example. Mobile loans, as you can see at the bottom, are increasing. Again, also something to keep a watch on in terms of what kind of risks that poses for people's financial well-being. And what I think is important to look at here is the reason behind why people take these loans. So 46% of Ghanaians say that they take a loan to cover an unplanned expense. So this again speaks to just the inability to navigate any financial shocks. People are having to immediately turn to debt to pay for medical expenses, to pay for everyday expenses. You can see here the top drivers of the personal loan usage. There's everyday expenses, it's starting a business, it's capital, it's paying for medical expenses. You'll hear in a few minutes as I wrap up from people themselves kind of describing some of these situations in a video that we're gonna share. And also even to pay off debt. So people taking loans to consolidate some of their debt and pay that debt off. So overall, I think a little bit of a concern in terms of the planning perspective of things and preparedness for shocks and financial realities. And it just, again, echoes the importance of those savings buffers that people are trying to build up. And just jumping straight into savings, what we do see is saving still forms a big part of what people do with their money. So if we ask people in your household allocation, what currently has what proportion of your income? So obviously living expenses takes the bulk at 59%. Savings is the second biggest one at 24%. Then insurance, medical aid, etc., sitting at 9%, and then servicing of debt is 9% as well. So the priorities in terms of saving have not shifted. it is still quite important for people in terms of them wanting to save and continuing to save. When it comes to saving vehicles, 22% of people have unbanked cash. You can see in the image, just cash in between the mattress. And a lot of this is driven by convenience and access to that money. We just saw the chart around, people having to take loans every time they have a financial shock or an unexpected expense. The similar thing is happening from a saving perspective. They're keeping this unbanked cash to make sure that they can have access to it on a regular basis. And 1 in 3 are saying that this unbanked cash is actually a significant part of their savings. So again, quite concerning when you look at the lack of formalized saving and investment and long-term saving versus a little bit of more the short-term trend that we see. From a SUSU perspective, we have seen an increase in informal savings mechanisms, so moving up from 37% to 44%, and continuing to rise, and people's contributions are also increasing in terms of SUSUs. And then finally, 50% of working Ghanaians saying that they use mobile money to actually keep some of those savings that they have. And then the second last thing on the savings topic is how well people are preserving their savings from a long-term perspective. And you'll see here marked improvement. So the light green line again is 2025, the middle dark green is 2024, and then the bottom one is 2023. 61% of people in 2023 were dipping into their savings to make ends meet. That number has dropped to 12%. And that doesn't mean that people have less to save. That's not necessarily what this chart talks about. We do some correlation exercises in the background, and we are seeing that savings behavior is actually increasing. And so actually this is a great green shoot in terms of people not dipping into their savings as regularly as they used to in the past, and not cashing in policies and investment policies that they have, which again, very positive to see. When it comes to saving goals, this has remained unchanged. Number one savings priority is making sure that people have an emergency savings pot or an emergency savings fund, followed by children's education, and then money to start or run their own businesses. This has remained consistent. 81% of people tell us that they have a savings goal that they're working towards, which is not disconnected from what you're seeing here, because so much of people's savings goals are either emergency fund related or business related or children's education. So consistently you will have people saying, I'm constantly saving towards something, and it's now a matter of making sure that those savings are able to be preserved for the long term. And finally, looking at retirement and the saving and adequacy of those savings. So 92% of people say, yes, absolutely, I know that it's important to save for retirement, but only 33% are actively saving for their retirement today. And also, similarly, if you look at the bottom chart, what that tells us is that 74% of people actually already know and are aware of the fact that they don't have enough from a retirement savings perspective. And if you play back some of the data we shared around the sandwich generation, this becomes all the more important, because your kids now and the kids of the people in this room would end up with adult and child dependents if we do not have our retirement savings in place. So this is really, really important when we look at this picture. It's not just a today picture, it's a tomorrow picture as well, because it suggests that you will have a generation of children when they become adults who will have the responsibility of their parents financially as well as their children. So really important to keep an eye on the retirement trends alongside the sandwich generation trends. And then when we look at investment confidence and financial advice, what we know for certain is that there is a correlation between people's confidence in making decisions around investment and getting financial advice. So 13% of Ghanaians today use a financial advisor and have financial advice through a financial advisor. And the ones who do are significantly more confident than people who don't get financial advice from a financial advisor. So really, really important that that link between financial advice and confidence and being able to improve both of those metrics in tandem is quite important. And the confidence in decision-making has dropped since 2023. And a lot of this is actually One, I think a reminder to us to make sure, Rita spoke about financial education, but to make sure we have the right mechanisms in place to support people. But I think also what's driven down this investment confidence is the risk appetite for people has also dropped. So people are less open to taking any risks financially because of the way I think the situation was with the macros and things that were happening. And so that has actually led to people being less confident when it comes to decision making about their investments. And overall, that tends to make them more reticent to actually invest their money in formalized institutions as a result. So again, this is something that we keep an eye on, and we will keep continuing to trend this data. But overall, we are definitely seeing some of that hangover, maybe is a word I would use, of what has been happening from an economic perspective, playing itself out as well from a confidence and decision-making point of view. And then finally, looking at just overall well-being, we ask people to just evaluate themselves in terms of how well do they think they are doing. Obviously, this has been rebranded as a financial well-being monitor, not just financial services monitor. And overall, you see that for most people, 4 in 10 saying that actually they would still rate their financial well-being as poor. And the things that they think would improve their well-being would be, one, financial advice and better planning for the future, the financial disciplines to manage their expenses better, as well as more savings and investments. And obviously, this is outside of their income increasing necessarily. And then just to conclude, just to recap on what we've heard today, and I think you'll hear it in the video that we'll play, the lady uses the word shaky when she describes her financial situation. So absolutely, without a doubt, there have been key shifts that have happened from a financial perspective for people. They've moved from survival mode into optimism, into actually being positive about what's coming in their future from a financial perspective. And there has been recovery, even though it's been guarded or measured, becoming more intentional with their money. They're actively reshaping how they live, how they spend, and how they save. The short-term savings mindset, however, does pose a risk for the long-term vulnerability of the people. And we do definitely see that come through across the board, that people still remain quite ill-prepared and ill-equipped for the future and for any financial shocks that they suffer. Retirement planning is a massive gap and almost largely absent for most people today in their financial situations. And so really helping people to start to think about retirement planning, long-term savings, will really make a marked improvement in their financial well-being, and making sure that beneath that recovery is not a shaky foundation, so that as people progress and they build onto what they've already done, they do so from a stable and solid base. The lack of confidence we've spoken about in terms of people really not being able to trust, or not feeling like they can trust the financial systems in Ghana, or the formal financial systems. And this is actually limiting people's savings and investing behavior as a result. And so overall, as Old Mutual, we are really excited about thinking about how do we strengthen trust in the formalized financial systems? How do we offer clear financial guidance that helps people make decisions and have a mindset that's more long-term focused, and ultimately help them to achieve their financial goals and be financially well? And that is everything from me. I'm going to ask the team to play the video. Thank you so much.
Now, interestingly, also another round of applause for Vuyo. Wonderful, wonderful submission. Yes, coming all the way to bring us this, really, I've seen how multidisciplinary and very eclectic this report is in itself. And this is wave 3 of the report, because for things that shifted slightly, I also had another thought. When we considered at number 2, cutting costs at number 2, for example, in terms of priorities, I was wondering, did we consider wives? Yeah, I'm sure we did, men and women, but okay, all right. Yes, I was just wondering, it's between men and women, but did we consider wives as another layer? Yes. Are they truly cutting down costs? Well, it's up to somebody else to decide. Maybe in another report. Now, looking at these, we've had a very good run. It is still being the Old Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor. And this is the 3rd wave of it. And there's been a very deep dive going into this. Soon to come, we'll give the media a chance while you're here to ask all the questions that you have on your mind among the three speakers who you would hear today. Now, based on that, we're bringing this gradually to a close. And to summarize this conversation that we've had, which has been very erudite and very special with us so long as the sector is concerned, now, beyond finances and its wellness, one person who actually drives even a more larger conversation here is the CEO of Old Mutual Ghana. Please, let's welcome Mr. Roy Punungwe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. MC. I would not recommend cost-cutting involving people's wives. I think it would get a lot of people into trouble. But anyway, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think, first of all, thank you once again for taking the time to be here with us for this engagement. I hope you found today's presentation quite valuable. I think there are many insights that Vuyo shared, which I think are quite important. And it also shows the shift that we've made in the market, in the country rather, from 2024 to 2025, which is now more positive. I think for me, the latest Old Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor paints a picture of a Ghana that is cautiously turning a corner. We're encouraged by what we are seeing. As the macroeconomic conditions improve, they begin to stabilize that we have seen in 2025. Working Ghanaians are demonstrating a greater financial discipline, renewed optimism, and more intentional money behaviors, which is very important. We see that stress levels are also easing. They have not disappeared, but I think in terms of direction of travel, that is quite positive. We're also seeing that incomes are also improving with the polyjobbers adding additional income streams. I think that's also very important for our markets. But we're also seeing households moving gradually from a survival mindset to a recovery mindset, which is important. The way I look at it is 2025 is the recovery roadmap, year one. And the reality is recovery does not only happen in 1 year, it might even take 2 or 3 years. But I think the direction of travel is quite positive for the country. I think it's important to acknowledge that the recovery is still fragile. While more people are saving and managing debt better, the data clearly tells us that financial vulnerability is still widespread. Saving remains largely short-term and informal. Retirement planning is not yet a priority, and confidence in making long-term financial decisions continues to decline. Those are some of the things we need to focus on. Beneath all that optimism, I think there is a risk that we need to acknowledge that too many individuals will struggle financially if their income is disrupted. I think there was a point in Vuyo's report that shows that if your income is disrupted, you can probably survive for 3 months at the most. And then from that point, you are in very deep waters. What this monitor reinforces is that financial wellness is not only about going through the next 6 months. It's also about how do we prepare for the next 20 to 30 years. These findings strongly underscore the importance of financial advice. Ghanaians are doing many of the right things with the tools that they have, cutting back, diversifying income streams, prioritizing safety, and building emergency buffers. But what remains missing is trusted guidance, structured long-term planning, and greater engagement with formal financial solutions that can turn short-term resilience into lasting financial security. As Old Mutual, that is where our responsibility lies as an institution. That means we have a big job to do, ladies and gentlemen. Our purpose is to champion the financial well-being, not only by offering financial solutions, but by also building trust, improving financial understanding, and walking the journey with our customers from recovery to sustainability. There is a clear opportunity before us to support working Ghanaians with practical advice, accessible solutions, and stronger pathways into structured savings, investment, and retirement planning. That is where the opportunity lies. The mindset is definitely shifting. The hope is there. With the right support and guidance, and working Ghanaians can transform today's cautious recovery into long-term financial confidence and security. That is the future Old Mutual is committed to helping build. One where financial wellness is not only an aspiration, but a reality for many people. We also believe that the Old Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor plays a critical role beyond insight. It provides a foundation for action. It enables our partners across sectors to engage intentionally, to challenge the status quo, and collaborate in addressing shared challenges, whether they're economic or broader issues affecting the well-being of the people. I would once again like to thank each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us today. As I conclude, I would like to reaffirm Old Mutual's commitment to partnering with our customers on their holistic well-being journeys and doing great things every day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here. This truly goes a long way to shape the minds. And thank you also to Old Mutual Ghana for the commitment to financial wellness in Ghana and across Africa with the knowledge and insights that we've shared. We believe that when the media amplifies this, it will go a long way to shape decisions that are being made from human resource all the way to the financial sector, and even importantly also the insurance sector where you find yourselves playing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. It has been a wonderful morning as we have had this, and the media engagement will begin or will transition into that right away. Thank you. Please, another round of applause to end this. My name is Atwabas, and it has been an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Old Mutual, do great things every day.